Good afternoon. We are here at the Parc des Princes in Paris, and this is Ericsson Day, the conference organized by Ericsson in France in Paris. And we have the pleasure to talk with Jasmeet Sethi, who is head of Consumer Lab for Ericsson. Jasmeet Sethi, good afternoon.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk about the survey you made the presentation this afternoon. You did a survey about on the consumer market to know what the consumer people are expecting from the 5G. And the first question would be, and then we're going to talk about the success factor of what's going on, but the first question would be, when you talk to people and you interviewed them, did they know exactly what was going on with the 5G? Did they know about the technology, or did you have to explain a little bit about it?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting that globally we see that there is decent awareness about this new technology around 5G, and also in France we had about 1/3 of users who were very familiar about 5G and the promise of 5G. But then of course there is a large population who has heard about the term, but they just have basic knowledge about it. So I was not surprised when I saw that there is a market out here which is reading and listening to what the media has to say about it, what's happening across the globe with regards to this new technology, which is, I think, a very positive sign considering the technology is still a few years away.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, the way it's going on, it's you have this 1/3 of the user, we can call them power user or advanced user, and of course they're ready to use it, and then they will do it. I mean, they will show that to the other one, and of course the other one will.
Market follows. Yeah.
But also you were digging about the success factor of, because the technology is there, and the thing is you need to have the business model, and you need to have the consumer, and so what did you find with the success factor in that survey?
So to start with, when we ran this survey, we ran this in the early half of 2018 with in globally covering about 68,000 consumers worldwide in 52 countries, and France was one of the markets that we ran this survey in, and it's representative of the opinion of about 30 million smartphone users in France, which is a very sizable sort of population, and the big sort of key takeaways were these 4 key success factors as to what would make 5G successful with end consumers. So the first one is more about satisfying the need for more when it comes to expectations that consumers have with regards to 5G. And in France, we see that the primary expectations are about improving my current mobile broadband experience. So higher speeds which are much higher even than the fixed broadband Wi-Fi. But what is even more interesting is that there are 40% of consumers in France who are saying my expectations are actually beyond speed and coverage from 5G. So what I'm really looking for is guaranteed quality of experience. I'm looking for better video streaming experience. I'm looking for personal security of data. And then, of course, you do all this on the smartphone, so you're also concerned about the battery life as well on the smartphone. So that's one of the success factors.
So they're almost ready for the 6G, right?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like that, and of course that's still a decade away, because we've seen every decade we have a new generation of technology. But it talks about it's kind of showing us that consumers are having extreme expectations on what the technology should actually offer. The second big sort of success factor is challenging the perception of Wi-Fi. Now we know that majority of the data traffic today, is actually on the Wi-Fi networks, and consumers use it a lot. From the time you actually get to your home, you are latching on to your Wi-Fi. So the expectation that consumers have with regards to 5G is that it should be as good as the Wi-Fi experience, or in fact go ahead and outperform the Wi-Fi experience.
Yeah, even better, because you will be in the 5G. You won't have to know the network and what password, if there is a password, and everything. Every time you go someplace, where is the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, exactly. So get rid of the need to remember passwords, the unreliable connectivity that we kind of face with Wi-Fi, and also the security issues with Wi-Fi as well. So consumers are expecting that 5G is going to be a new league of connectivity which can compete or maybe actually outperform Wi-Fi, and that's
And maybe replace.
maybe even replace at some point as well. So that's the second biggest sort of success factor. The third one, which I think is very critical, is about use cases and services. And the reason why that is very critical is that we've seen from a survey that majority of the consumers are saying they're just not expecting a new G to be available. They are expecting a new experience that comes with it.
Something they didn't have with a 4G that is going to be possible with a 5G.
Exactly.
But then do you have to give them some example? What's it going to...
Yeah, so we tested about 13 different examples of new services that could be enabled via 5G. So these range from the ability to actually do shopping in virtual reality, to communications as 3D holograms, even consuming sports in ways that we have not seen before. So going really beyond your television set to actually experiencing sports from as if you are in the best seat possible in the arena. So a lot of AR, VR sort of related services, and then of course services which talk about automotive connectivity, so connected cars, connected robots, and autonomous sort of driving. So a plethora of different services. And what's interesting, which is really positive, is that 72% of French consumers are really excited and interested when we talk about these new services. And even more positive is the fact that about 42% of these guys are even willing to pay. Because they have not experienced such services with the previous generation.
Yeah, because being interested is one thing, but ready to pay, I mean, that's another thing. Right?
Exactly. So because the operators need to now think about monetizing 5G as well. So I think this is a very positive sign that there is an appetite in the French market to actually consume services, but also actually pay for these services as well. So that's the third biggest sort of factor. But then there is the devices part, which is also interlinked with the use cases. And the French market is telling us that 5G actually needs an iconic device to drive adoption. So basically 5G needs an iPhone moment to drive adoption. So what iPhone did with 3G, 4G is what the French consumers are actually expecting to happen with 5G. So we still need to wait for what type of new devices and capabilities actually come into the future that's really going to drive the adoption of 5G.
So about this one, you don't have any answer because it's coming from the vendor who are making these smartphones, right?
Yeah. I mean, right now, I think we can't say for sure what the future form factors or handsets would look like. But if you look at what consumers are expecting, they are expecting significant changes to screen sizes. So a lot of consumers that we spoke with talked about flexible displays or foldable screens, the ability to actually project stuff on wall. And that becomes very interesting because there is only so much that you can do on a small screen in the smartphone. So when we start talking about 4K and 8K sort of resolutions, suddenly when the screen size doubles, that's where you start seeing the real value with these new devices.
Okay. So in the overall, the technology is almost ready because the Verizon, for example, in the US just launched their services, and you are basically saying that with the survey that the customer are ready to buy it in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. So
it's going to start it's going to be explosive when everything will be available.
I think 5G is going to go actually much faster than 4G, also because of the pent-up hype that's been created. So there is an expectation that users have that they will want to get the latest and the greatest. Of course, a lot would depend upon the pricing of the handsets in a way and what services we are eventually going to launch. But so far, we're getting positive signs from end consumers, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to kind of build and curate these sort of experiences.
Very good. So we will talk about it when everything will be ready for it. Jasmeet Sethi, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.